Yes.
Good morning, Pat.
Good morning, Chris. Good to see you.
Good to see you as well.
Thank you. Thank you. So, as we often do before we begin the recording, we have our little, back and forth. So we're kind of already in this place of what we're going to share here today. And I think we agreed that it's important information. Information sounds so clinical. Important life offerings that we believe that we're not alone in this particular struggle, which is it's out of this book, folks. Love Without Conditions, Reflections of the Christ Mind, and written by Paul Ferrini, who's some people consider a mystic and certainly an author of great magnitude. So the story here is Love Without Conditions. And, when I was thumbing through this book, it caught my eye because I'm like, oh boy, I need to read that one really pretty quick, because I get all kinds of conditions, that come from, the external world, but also from the internal mind that's sometimes called the monkey mind. I might call mine the silverback gorilla mind. But anyway, so here's the first couple of paragraphs. It says, you have learned conditional love from people whose love for you was compromised by their own guilt and fear. These have been your role models. You need not be ashamed of this. You need only be aware of it as a fact. From the time you were an infant, you were conditioned to value yourself only when people responded positively to you. You learned that your self-worth was established externally. That was the fundamental error, which has perpetuated itself throughout your life. Your parents' experience was no different from yours, nor was your children's experience. All of you need to heal from the same wounds. All trespasses/violations must be made conscious, and the emotions attached to them must be released. This is the way that all wounded beings move from experience of conditional love to the experience of love without conditions. Yeah, exactly. And it's an essay that's only a few pages long, and in this little short essay is a truth, as I mentioned to you before we started, Chris, that as soon as I'm reading it, I'm saying, I know this. Why do I keep forgetting it? Why do I keep forgetting this truth that unless I can love myself without conditions, I will be seeking and grasping all over the place in my life, particularly in relationships of intimacy, that Jung called the anima animus, like, are you my daddy? Are you going to be a good daddy? And the guy's like, I don't know. Are you going to be a good mommy? We'll we'll see. And of course, you can do that forever. But the healing of the inner heart that is wounded by an idea that I have to get approved of by thus and so, you and you, before I can relax and be all I was meant to be. It's a wall I can never climb over.
Yeah. So how do you start building your own? I was going to say fortress. I'm not sure if that's the right word. Of self-love, basically. That I am valuable. I am worthy. I am perfect within my imperfections, or despite my imperfections, which we all have.
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
and so my theory about that is it goes way back to childhood, of course.
Mhm.
Um, Having raised three children, we both raised three children. And what I have to the question with the if the question is how do you get that self-love? Um, I think well, it's complicated, but um loving that baby, I mean, I don't know. How do you how would you categorize or how would you describe the very early parenting um styles or techniques or ways that would cultivate self-love?
Well, I mean, it's not going to be Dr. Benjamin Spock who advised parents to let their child cry because um, that would teach them how to self-soothe or some
Hmm.
BS, excuse me. Yeah, totally, totally. And this is a segue very quick to my therapist that I see. I'm not afraid to say that I see a therapist who was telling me the story about his young daughter who they're in New York right now. They moved quite a bit because of different things that are going on in their life. However, they're from New York originally, so the kids are in their own backyard, so to speak. Anyway, so they get the daughter into the school, and within a very short time, she comes home and says to her mommy and daddy, "My teacher doesn't like me, and I can tell she doesn't like me." And maybe says a few other things to her parents. So they, of course, make a call to the school and talk with the principal of the school. And the principal of the school says, as they explain their daughter's struggle, well, what we have found is that kids need to learn that they're going to come up against things, and so the teacher is providing this battlefield for your
Raw
daughter.
material.
Yeah, she didn't use that word. And your teacher is teaching your daughter something. And the mother, my therapist's wife, said, I'm thinking that my daughter will get that lesson all over the place. And she doesn't need it in the classroom from her teacher. I know, I know. I felt myself returning back to those days because I've got a lot of school history stuff. Um, being a kid with a lot of energy, I guess. Um, anyway, yeah. So here we are in this place where we've been convinced through our external culture to get your attaboys and attagirls out there. And meanwhile, all these wounds that happened, they don't get healed by that. Those wounds are sitting there and they're waiting for our own attention. Our own attention.
I couldn't agree more. And I think I've seen a couple of snapshots of young parents when they're with their kids, and one of them was sort of exploring for feelings. So kids crying, mom or dad says, do you feel rejected?
Mhm.
No, no, I don't feel rejected. I feel blah blah blah. Or mom or dad says, do you feel lonely? Um, Not really lonely. I feel this and that.
Mhm.
So it's kind of like priming the pump,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
it's also um, validating the fact that human beings feel rejected. They
Mhm.
feel left out.
Mhm. Mhm.
They all these things that happen in school, that's normal. And the way to deal with it is to um, love them and love them and love them, just like Farini was talking about with love without conditions.
Yeah. 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 And you know, to be a teacher and do a really human job would be meaning to be paying attention to all the exchange that happens in the room between the kids and catching kids who aren't being very nice to their neighbor or whatever. And you know, do they have time to do that? I mean, I don't know how big the classrooms are, but when I went to school, being a baby boomer, 45 kids in a room wasn't unusual, you know? I mean, how could they possibly keep care of that? So anyway, so back returning to the essay. So for myself, just, you know, without a lot of detail, I've been in a relationship where it was clear fairly early on that the fellow I was connected with had his own inner pain, and he actually shared that with me very quickly, about a couple of incidents that happened to him as a child and how it impacted him and so forth. And of course, you know, automatic attraction. Oh, this guy, you know, knows the deal. And so I think that I then interpreted that as, well, then, you know, we'll get along well, because we have things in common. You know, we have this inner turmoil, maladjustment, unhealed woundedness. Boy, who could understand it better than somebody else that has this, someone else that has the similar experience? Only thing about this is neither of us have done the deep work, the spiritual work, in my opinion. This person was an atheist, so already we've got some, you know, stuff going on with that. And you know, I guess for me, my honest thing about it is maybe I can heal without ever having to do any work. Maybe at some level, I was like, it'll happen automatically because we both have the same thing, and we'll be sensitive to that. Not at all. Just the opposite happens.
And why do we avoid doing the work, especially if we know how?
Well, I have sort of a harebrained theory, um, and that is that how could I, the me that I see myself as, kind of less than, not having everything, you know, not having all the things that I need yet, how could that being, the being of me, who's less than, ever help, ever have anything really to help myself? What value does it have? So it's almost like you devalue it. It just fits the whole inner message of you're not valued. So if you're not valued, what do you have to offer? So the trick, or the not the trick, the truth of the matter is nothing changes until something changes. So unless I can face the music and sit with my pain and be with it and comfort myself in ways that I didn't get as a child, it's up to me now. It was always up to me, but it's really, it's the midnight hour. I mean, like, okay, you're going to have to do this. And didn't that relationship actually open that creaky old door, you know, that door that, you know, I didn't want to look in? It opened it, and it kept opening it wider and wider and wider until I could see, holy mackerel, I've been barking at the wrong door, you know? And I am extremely uncomfortable within myself right now. Um, might be a little bit emotional here. And you, my darling friend, and this is for everybody to know. If you have one person in your life that will hold your pain, you've got a lot. Because we don't know how to do that anymore, if we ever did. And so this is where the rubber meets the road, when my friend Chris sits and has an expression of compassion on her face for me. Doesn't get any better than that. And that, I think, is what God does. He makes us available for other people. And actually, he makes us available for ourselves, but we keep ignoring that part. So now
Well,
it's
the cultural mandate to ignore ourself. So what do you, if you don't ignore yourself, you're what, conceited, you're selfish,
selfish.
full of
Selfish.
yourself.
Yeah. Big
You
ego. Big
got a
ego.
big head.
Yeah. Yeah. Swollen head.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. And all the whole time we're losing the most important part of maturation,
Yes.
which is self-respect,
Self-care.
self-care, self-tenderness.
Self-regard.
Yeah. So yeah, self-love, but that's a little too broad of a term, I think. Yeah.
Mm. So anyway, this, not to be too repetitive, the relationship had its purpose. And the purpose, I'm seeing now, was to shine the light on my pain, my woundedness, to shine it right on it so that the light actually makes it more painful.
Mm.
And this friend, this person, this relationship knew how to do that because it was a reflection of their own pain.
Mm-hmm.
And so on and on. And we have, we have closed the book, and we are both moving forward, or we're both sitting with our pain. And it's sort of like high time. And it's hard. So you had asked a question, I want to answer it. What do we do about taking care of that pain, that inner woundedness? So one of the very first things that's coming here for me, and it's fairly simple, is sitting with the pain. Now, what does that mean? Well, it means my mind wanders and wants to get away from the pain. It's almost like trying to meditate. It's almost the same.
I was just thinking that, yeah.
And the ego, it begins to yippity yap. And yeah, but what about, did you do the dishes yet? I mean, isn't this something, whatever. I mean, normally the dishes don't bother me at all.
How about cleaning under the couch?
That too, until I'm trying to sit with me and with my pain and with my heartache or whatever it might be. So it's just to keep returning to it. Sometimes some, tears will start. Then it'll be like, it's the pain is so unfamiliar. To sit with one's pain, at least for me, I should say for me, not one's, to sit with my pain is so foreign. It's almost like, wait a minute, how do I do it? And I'm like trying to adjust it. It's like, just be quiet. Can you do that? Just stop. And the pain, it is literally, my gut tightens. That's where I feel it. And that's common for people. And it's this tightening in the gut. And then there's some guttural tightening in the glands in the neck, even though I'm not trying to talk or say anything, the neck. And it's this whole sort of physicality that's like really uncomfortable because I'm in my body. Oh, yay. Is that what I'm supposed to do? Be in my body? I didn't know. Oh my God.
So before you get off the body, why?
Sure.
So Eckhart Tolle talks a lot about this in The Power of Now.
Yeah.
And I think it's so important to listen to the body. Hold on just a second, I have to close the door.
Certainly.
Sorry about that.
No
Okay,
problem.
so listening to the body. The body has a lot to tell us, as you're saying.
Yes.
And he talks a lot about it with regard to being present. So most of the time, human beings are not present. They're not aware of of their surroundings, of this moment. They're thinking about something else.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's what we do. And of course, our whole life could go by without being in the moment, which, I mean, you kind of miss in your life, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So he says that one quick way to bring yourself back from the distractions and to be in the moment is to bring your attention into your body. So that really helped me a lot in terms of coming home again, when I'm trying to meditate, coming home, being in the body. And you're talking about acknowledging and giving worth to the sensations, the emotional sensations we have in our body that are from our psyche and our heart that play out in the body. And I think that I have found that very often the brain catches up a lot later than the body does to what is going on in our life.
Absolutely.
So you're talking about this tightness, the constriction, the thing in the throat. These are all signs of our psychic response to pain, to pleasure, to boredom, to fear. And so listening to the body, coming home to the body, is a very sort of almost a fast track to self-knowledge. Like I finally, sometimes I get the impression, I get the message from my body, I'm trying to tell you who you are.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. 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 And I think the term disassociation, I feel certain that a number of times in my life I did that. So those particular incidents are sort of trapped somewhere. I'm going to say psychically, but certainly the body is also, having those troubles. So somatic response is about that. It's about, you're dealing with something that needs attention at some level you're not either able or willing to go to, and then the body will say, okay, fine, here's a pain in your ass, or whatever. I mean, it will talk, as you're saying. And that's certainly been my experience in life, that I've had these illnesses that crop up that are a byproduct of not connecting the dots spiritually, psychically, avoiding that. Right. Spiritually, particularly, because that's the what do we want to call it? The magic pill, if we're going to use that kind of term. That it's like, oh, that pill, oh, that's way back on the shelf. I can't get that spiritual pill. It's lodged in between the wall and the shelf. It's really difficult. So I think, I mean, I just know I've done that, and I'm at the point where that's not possible anymore. I what is it? Too much. To not know. When you know the truth, you can't not know the truth. So my problem isn't someone else, it's me. And I don't mean that in a pejorative way. I mean, the problem is I don't take care of myself in a way. I didn't have any role models, so I'm not blaming myself terribly for this. That would answer this spiritual longing for love,
And
from me,
wholeness.
from me,
Yeah.
and wholeness, absolutely.
So one of the things that we're doing when we love ourselves is we are excavating the peace of God that is always with us. And it's really a very it's like sacramental when we love ourselves. You know,
Sure.
you think about baptism, and then self-love is maybe even much more. I don't know. I mean, but but in my experience, the work I've done on self-love has been has landed me in the lap of God. I mean, it's a very, very um it's a very sacred um effort or experience, or maybe it's not even an effort. Maybe self-love is,
And
you know,
allowing.
allowing, right? Maybe just God takes over, you know,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
not only that, but I believe strongly that each person is a unique expression of God. And when we allow ourselves to be who we are
Mhm.
without any embellishments or um, paraphernalia or shoulds or oughts, that we are expressing to one another the presence of God. And I don't know of any doctrine or dogma or scripture, or I mean some poetry, yes, maybe, but I don't know of anything that has formed religion that addresses that.
Yeah. 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 Well, it's such a externalized world, that we're not seeing the light within each other anymore. I mean, maybe we're working on that, Chris, to see the light in people.
But how about when somebody, I'm interrupting you, I'm sorry.
No, I was done. I'm good.
How about if somebody spontaneously releases that light? Don't we just, like, I know that my response is, oh my goodness, what just happened?
Mm,
And it
mm,
could be in any kind of form. It could be vulnerability, it could be joy, which is also vulnerability.
yeah.
Um, it could be it could be anything, some things that are indescribable. It could be somebody just being in the moment. And by the way, being in the moment, I have this poem that I wanted to
Yes.
that I wanted to read, because I think it kind of speaks to what we're talking about.
Okay.
It's by Nan Merrill, and she's one of my favorite writers.
I like her a lot too.
This road humbles us and gives us strength to repent, to ask for forgiveness, to simply and to simplify and discard all that is not life-giving, and to abandon ourselves into love's hands. I've learned to love and to trust the mystery, not needing to know the future. That's a big one.
Mm, mm,
I no longer take grace for granted. It is a pure gift. My essential course of action is simply to be in the eternal now, ready to follow the small, still voice heard in the silence.
mm.
And then there's a prayer that was done after that by Victoria Londrigan. May you love and trust the eternal now, listening deeply and soulfully in this season of darkness for what waits to be born in you.
Wow.
You know, what
Yeah.
waits to be born in you? It's like, what waits to be born in you? I ask myself, what waits to be born in me? That's like there's the $64 million question again.
It was 64,000. How many times do I have to tell you that?
It's inflation.
Okay, that's right. Okay, I keep forgetting that. Um, yeah, well, I mean, I think it's pretty simple. I think love waits to be born with us and within us. And that means that love is for us. We're in the mix, you know? So perhaps, if I could get honest, totally honest, how real and how honest is my love for others?
Mm,
If, in fact, the love for me is lacking.
mm.
So that's putting yourself on the hot seat a bit.
So say more about that. How do you think that loving ourselves more, what does loving ourselves more do to our love for others?
Well, I'm not even saying more, but loving ourselves, period, really loving ourselves, which is what Farini talks about in that essay, love without conditions, that would clear the way for us to actually be able to do that out there. So what I'm saying is, how real and honest and truthful, same thing, has my love been for others? If it's not that for me, you see? So I could almost use some word like maybe my love has helped people in certain ways. But I also wonder if I have a condition on that love for myself. So in other words, if I do something thoughtful, in quotes, for another person, what's my reason? What's my reason? Am I looking for an atta girl? Am I looking to be, brought up? Do I think I need that? Is that true? I mean, so it's all this, fabrication, perhaps coming from a good place. I don't want to give a mixed message here. I don't think it's that when one does something thoughtful for somebody else or nice or whatever, that in and of itself hasn't been helpful. Of course it has. It's been helpful in a practical, external sort of way. However, how deep does that go? Where does that come from? Is that an external manipulation of things, perhaps? So a lot of things come into question for me around this reticence and refusal for me to love myself, because what that says in essence is I don't really want to be in the game. I'm just playing it safe out here, and this, again, third time I'm mentioning it, this relationship has really brought that to the fore in such a way that I can't not look at it anymore, because the relationship told me what it needed to tell me. You are not loving yourself the way God wants you to love yourself.
And how does God want you to love you?
Without conditions. And that, in a conditional world, wow, it's pretty hard to peel all that stuff away. I mean, what about all the bad things you've done? Shouldn't that, maybe that makes you not lovable? Maybe, et cetera, et cetera. Shame, fear, big block for love to, love can get over anything.
Mm.
But not if fear says, yeah, just wait 1 minute. Yeah. Do you have a pass? What's the
Where's your hall
password?
pass?
Yeah, where's your hall pass? Exactly. Get down to the principal's office right away. So I don't know. I just think these are really important conversations because I think what we're grappling with here is so commonplace. So commonplace that people would say, love yourself. That's, what's that? That's ridiculous. Without conditions. Without conditions. I don't know.
So I can remember
So
as a little kid seeing my father, catching my father look at me with this sparkle in his eye and just this sense of delight. And I mean, that is part of my DNA. It's because I was so small and because he was so important to me, it's just part of who I am.
sure.
And I think we can do that for ourselves. I think we can look at ourselves with this sparkle of delight just because we are who we are, not because we've done anything or because we deserve it. But,
Yeah.
think of the people that you love in your life or the important people that you value. Um, and when I do that, I come up with many people, and there's nothing in common with them except that they they were all authentic. They they were true to themselves, whatever that self was. And we talked before about um, feeling comfortable around people who were authentic, even if they were a little nasty, or even if they were a little bit crass, or maybe they were telling us we said didn't want to hear something. But
Mhm.
but since because they were authentic, there's a sense of uh there's a sense of, not comfort's not the right word. It's a good feeling to be around someone who is authentic. And I think there needs
Well,
to be
yep.
a little self-love for that to happen.
Yes. Thank you for adding that because I was just going to say that's really an important piece. What you added at the end, we have to have a little self-love to be able to accept it. So what I was going to say is I remember a time in my life back when I was, struggling with alcoholism and all kinds of other mental games, that when I met somebody who that you're describing here, somebody who was filled with delight, was loving and open and curious and all those things that make meeting somebody really enjoyable and rises the energy or rises the mood. I remember being suspicious of that.
At what age?
I'd well, I think, for quite a long time until probably I got sober, until I started, things started shifting. And sometimes would be more than others. But what I'm trying to point out is it can actually, to somebody who is closed down their heart, who is just going through the motions of life, to come across somebody who's filled with light is almost like, wow, they're really full of themselves, aren't they? I mean, it would be like it would be suspicious,
Yeah, yeah.
somebody who was totally loving. It's like, who, I mean, and I'd hang around with people who would say the same thing. Yeah, yeah, they really, they think there's something great, don't they? Well, they are something great,
And we
and
all
so
are.
weren't we.
Yeah.
but we didn't know,
We didn't know it. Yeah.
So we didn't know it. So
We were
I
tricked
think again,
by we were tricked by a culture that was, I mean, the church, the capital C church had a lot to do with this conditioning. And my opinion about why the church had a lot to do with it is just, my mother used to say the problem with churches is that they're full of people. As soon as you get people together, the fear, the control, um
and
the
all the
all the
woundedness of
woundedness.
all
Yeah,
those people together, well, you get a mess,
yeah, yeah.
a
And
real mess.
you get people who, well, we have to get this church organized, we have to. So
Mhm.
uh
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, why should the church be any different than town hall or
It
Girl
isn't.
Scouts or school? I mean, when people are together, people screw things up, and they
Yep,
also do good things.
yep,
So
yep.
for me, it's been a matter, this whole thing called life has been a matter of accepting both both things in life, that we have to accept the screw ups and we have to accept the beauty, because
Right,
it's not as if we're going to figure it out someday.
right,
We're not going
right.
to figure it out. It's always going to be good and bad.
And you just said something, I comment that, learning to love equally the darkness and the light, learning to love those things equally.
Yeah. So I
There
think of
is a
I
job for Superman
well, I think of the
or Superwoman.
I think of the dark days of my teen years when, at 14, my father died, and then my mother had been alcoholically drinking for, it's 6 or 7 years, and many years before that, heavy drinking. But and my world was, I mean, I could see my world just crumbling around me, and
Mhm.
um, I was desperate. I was terrified, felt completely alone, and
Mhm.
felt like my foundations were just crumbling beneath me. It was a very, very frightening time. And I look back at that whole, I mean, the thing about getting old is you get to look back. When you're young, you don't get to look at the future, but you get to look back when you're old.
Right.
And what I see
Yes.
is this totally mysterious, holy process that was happening. Um, I can't explain it. I don't want to explain it. I don't need to explain it, and I never will explain it. It's the whole not knowing things.
Yes.
But I look at my life, and that part of my life was part of who I am. It built who I am, and I have tremendous inner peace now. I mean, I have fear and control issues and all that stuff like everybody else, but I have more inner peace now than I ever have, and more just lightness and gratitude. And I don't think I would have had those things had it not been for that terribly, terribly painful time in my life.
Yeah, I, yeah,
And
I
and
think
the
that is how it works.
the 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 end of that story is that my mother almost died. She was 86 pounds, and she was almost 5'9". She had
Wow.
nothing except vodka to eat or drink for probably 3 weeks.
Mm,
And
mm,
she was taken to the ER. She spent 6 weeks in the ICU. And then when she finally got home, I mean, I just felt like, oh my God, I've got my mother back. What
yeah.
better thing can happen in life for you to get your mother back after she just practically died? And not only was she back, she was sober back. And
Yeah.
then
Yeah.
she jumps into AA. We jump into Alateen. We go to church once a week, great church. And life just flipped on its ear. And it was good from there on. It was a resurrection. It was a resurrection.
Absolute resurrection. That
Yeah.
was the word I was just going to say to you. Yeah. And it happens again and again.
Yes.
We die to be born again, and yeah, yeah. So that kind of hits home right now, because I think what is dying within me, the pain is caused by the death of, again, my willfulness. Talk about resurrection. Oh, yeah. My willfulness can, come, it's like the phoenix rising from the ashes. So I, this willfulness once again, needs to be loved into willingness. And so that's the job before me, is to recognize the willfulness had its purpose at different points in my life to get me through things. But it never let go, so and again, this is what's happened recently. I'm fairly certain that's what I would call it, another episode of willfulness that brought me into a relationship that was it wasn't awful all the way through, but it had enough pain, evidently necessary. I guess willfulness doesn't like pain. I'm sensing it doesn't like pain. So well, too bad. It's here, and I'm, being smug or funny about it, but it's the loneliest place in the world, because no one can do the actual sitting with it. You can have support like I have from you, Chris, and I hope I give you the same. But then there's the part where I'm not with Chris, and singing my sad story, and I'm off by myself, and then the willfulness is like, what's to do? What, we must have something to do. No, you don't have anything to do. Just sit there. Try sitting there with your eyes closed. Try calling on love. Keep calling. And don't forget that famous term, show me the way, which I pass on now all the time, because I recognized it contains the simple request to be shown the way. Doesn't get any better than that.
It's the perfect mantra for me.
Perfect mantra.
It doesn't.
It is.
So, because I've been known to go into all kinds of head trips about prayer and how it should be done and how it shouldn't be done. And show me the way just wipes out all the trips and puts me on the path.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I
And of
absolutely
course,
love it.
yeah, we're going to thank Mr. Alan Kaplan for that, who was a Jewish man that I was married to, who never, ever complicated anything. Anything. I mean, including, just you name it, no conditions about anything. Whatever happened, that was what was supposed to happen. Really? Yeah, really. Can't be that. No, it can't be that. Yeah, it's that. What happened was supposed to happen.
I love Alan, and I never even knew him.
Yeah. He was pretty wise. He was pretty wise, and very quietly wise, not wise, boisterous wise. Yeah, you'd have to really ask him questions to have him speak about himself or in any way. He didn't need it. He knew he was fine. So yeah, show me the way. Yeah. So easy, so nice.
It's what I love about Show Me the Way is there's a surrendering in it, built into it.
That's correct.
So see, what I resist about prayer is that I don't want to tell God what to do. I mean, God's smarter than I am, right? I can't make asparagus. I can't make stars, I can't make baby's tears.
You can cook asparagus. You can dry baby's ears. You can look up at the sky. Do you see? You see how it's also inclusive?
But Show Me the Way is a handing it over.
Yes.
You're automatically
yes.
handing it. You're handing over control.
Yeah, there's a surrender in it.
There's
a surrender.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah,
And
that is probably
yeah. So that's what I need. I need surrender in every aspect of my life. I need to paint my life with surrender. Because God knows better than I do. And I I don't know if you remember that Billy Crystal movie when they're in the restaurant and she goes into this sort of orgasmic experience, and the woman next to the theater, she says, I want what she's having.
That's right. I remember that. Yeah. Yeah. Perfect. Yeah. That's an unforgettable line.
Yeah. That's an iconic scene.
It's that one, and just let me quickly stick in here. What we have here is a failure to communicate. From Cool Hand Luke.
Yeah.
And again, that's a perfect perfect thing to think about when we're trying to run the show. Maybe, the divine is saying, and what we have here is a failure to communicate.
And then infinite patience. This is what I don't get. How do you watch somebody make mistakes for 50 years and have the still small voice? Why aren't you? I told you that 500 million times. So I love Show Me the Way. Show Me the Way is it's just the perfect prayer for everything. It's a perfect prayer for everything.
Yeah. So maybe we should have this we could have it either two ways: Holy Compost, Show Me the Way, or Show Me the Way, Holy Compost. Either way it works. Yes, I'm going to hang on to that. That feels like it's really in my heart right now.
Yeah.
We did explore it and see that it is sort of, you can't squeeze around it. It's either you're asking show the way or you're not.
It's the perfect thing to end our session with, because it's just the pinnacle of truth, and it's pithy.
Pithy.
It's pithy.
It totally is. You can't argue with it, and if you can't argue with it, that's it.
That's right. Okay, my dear. Well, I look forward to our next Holy Compost, and
yes, me too.
Wish you and everyone else peace and love.
Thank you. Same to you, Chris.